Welcome to the Anthony John Amix podcast. This is episode 14. 14 episodes already. Pretty crazy. And I'm really excited about this episode because I'm bringing you one of the former OGs of the UFC. He's a former light heavyweight world champion of the world, my homie, Guy Mezger. And we're going to be diving into the keys to reinventing your life at any age, regardless of your circumstances. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Anthony John Amix podcast. The one and only podcast designed to help you become unstoppable in life and business. My name is Anthony John Amix. My friends call me AJ. And my goal with this podcast is to help you remember who you truly are so you can maintain your center in the chaos, embody your potential, and unlock freedom in your life and business. That being said, let's get into today's show.
All right, well, welcome back. This is going to be a fun episode. Now, if you don't know Guy Mezger, he won the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship at UFC 13. This is why I'm saying he is a UFC OG. He defeated Tito Ortiz with the guillotine. He is also the 7th ever King of Pancrase world champion, not to mention his multiple world titles in karate and kickboxing. And I met Guy while training at his gym in Dallas. I did some boxing training there for about a year or so. And man, I just always loved training at his gym, going over there and just kind of being in his space and the space of the gym. It just really transformed me. Kind of crazy to say that. It's just a world-class facility full of just wonderful people. And, it's tough though. His training's tough, but I learned more in one training session than I had in 6 months at title boxing. I learned so much just from their wisdom, from footwork and movement, just lots of small things that made a big difference. And then while training there for a while, I started striking up conversations with Guy, while running on the elliptical. And man, that dude has some crazy stories. He has had an adventurous life, and maybe we'll get into some of those today. But what a lot of people don't know about Guy is his career outside of fighting. He ran a consulting company that trains both the federal and state law enforcement agencies on revamping their defensive tactics. He was the president of one of Mark Cuban's companies, and now he actually has a PhD. He's a doctor. He's a holistic doctor, actually, and he's the managing partner at a doctor's group called Optimal Health Specialist. So I thought it'd be really great to bring him on to help give you some insights on how he's been able to reinvent himself time and time again. And speaking of reinventing your life, I have a free training about what it takes to reinvent your identity so you create a new level of success in your life and business. And you can find that at www.trainingwithaj.com. And in that training, I dive deep to help you understand why most people feel stuck and capped out. And I also teach you the 4 ancient secrets that will help you increase your income and impact. So you can go register for that training for free at trainingwithaj.com. And I've received several emails from people who have listened to that training and they said, man, dude, that training changed my life. Thank you. So with that being said, let's bring on the former UFC light heavyweight champion of the world.
Cool. Guy Mezger, what's up, man?
How are you, brother?
Dude, I'm doing awesome. I'm actually in Romania at the moment. I'm not even in Dallas. I'm doing great. Yeah, we my wife and I, we left America back in 4 months ago, I think. And we've been kind of bouncing around Spain, Portugal, islands, Switzerland. Now we're in Romania. We come back when do we come back? Come back for a month in January, and then we off to Scotland. So we're just kind of bouncing around, man. Just Airbnb-ing, just exploring Europe. That was our goal before we had our daughter, and we're like, fuck it, we're gonna take our daughter with us, and so she's here with us.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, it's been fun. It's been an adjustment, that's for sure. So, dude, today I want to talk about kind of just how to reinvent somebody's life. If they want to reinvent their life, you've done it over and over and over again, right? You have crazy career from UFC world champion to training, man, some of our armed forces on hand-to-hand combat. And I've heard some of those crazy stories. Maybe we'll get into some of those today. You've also ran one of Mark Cuban's companies, and now you're a doctor and you're doing lots of other cool things. So before we hop into reinventing yourself, I really want to talk about how and why did you get started into fighting as kind of your first career?
Well, it's funny. At different times in my life, I probably would give you a different answer.
Yeah.
When now that I'm kind of more reflective, now that I'm a little bit older and everything, I think back what it was the mistake I think most people make with a lot of us, and me particularly, is that somehow I was this super directed, focused guy who was going to be the world champion you know, at all costs, you know, and then I started this at like 8 years old or something. And it really wasn't the case. I mean, you know, I got into combat athletics and martial arts in general just because I came from a physically very abusive household. My father was a complete asshole and very physically abusive. And so, you know, you create what you can do to create armor. And then when we left, you know, it was kind of one of those, you know, after school specials, you know, you leave in the middle of the night kind of stuff. And you know, we went from living in a really nice neighborhood to living in East Richardson in the 70s, which really was not a nice neighborhood. And, you know, and so then it became, you know, having to defend yourself at a very young age. I mean,
Sure.
you know, it was, you know, people discount this whole bullying kind of stuff and everything, but I was in the 5th grade and, you know, we had, you know, gang members were different. Gang members back then didn't shoot each other, but gang
Sure.
members travel in groups and beat up people. And, you know, we had, you know, 7th and 8th graders and 9th graders, you know, coming down and picking on us. And so, you know, I mean, I started, you know, I learned to defend myself. You know, I mean, I was sick and tired of being scared, you know, and gonna do something about it. And I just had a propensity to it. I'm you know, the fight business is about, you know, if you're gonna be good, it's a smart man's game, and I'm a relatively smart guy, and I knew the value of it. You know what I mean? I saw how people respected the strong. You know what I mean? And how they feared him. You know, and so, you know, I got good. You know, I was a wrestler, and wrestling is the greatest martial art in the world. And when I started wrestling, you know, literally, there wasn't anybody I couldn't take. And I just had, you know, I'll be also too, you know, it's weird. I don't like hurting my fellow
Sure.
human being. I'm kind of good at it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's a weird part of me, you know. And then, so, you know, growing up, you know, I'll try not to say too many you knows, but growing up with my, you know, with my background, you know, I had to deal with self-esteem issues. And so what I was good at was athletics. I was a very good athlete. And it was always kind of funny because my brothers, they've all had invitations to join Mensa, which is a society of people with IQs like over 150 or something ridiculous like that.
Wow.
I didn't have one of those. I didn't get the invitation. My mom would be like, "This is John, Kenny, and Marshall, and they're on honor roll society and national honor roll, and this is Guy, and he's athletic." So I built up a lot of my self-esteem because I had a lot of self-esteem issues. You know, being poor and stuff like that was not fun. And you know, what I was good at, I was being an athlete, and so I gravitated towards that. I enjoyed team sports real well. I enjoy being on a team, and I understand the value of a team. But I prefer having a training team and be able to perform on my own, because with football is a great sport, right? But it takes 10 other guys to win the damn game. And,
Sure.
you know, it'd be the one guy who doesn't train hard, you know, who slacks off, misses his tackle or misses a block, and we lose the damn game, right? It didn't sit well with me. But with wrestling and boxing and kickboxing and karate, you know, I could win the game on my own. And so that's why I gravitated towards those sports, because I knew that my self-esteem was caught up in being the champ and being good at it. And so that's what I did. And it kind of fit where I was in life too, because, you know, I saw the value of having strength. I saw the value of you know, using the term tough guy is usually a negative connotation, but this is more of a positive connotation. I was a tough guy, you know, and people didn't mess with me. They messed with me once. The problem was I moved every 2 years. So, you know, every 2 years I was a new kid somewhere, and they'd try me out.
Of course.
And it turned out well for that guy, and it turned out well for the next guy. And then it got around that you don't mess with this guy, and then problem solved. But
Awesome,
then we
man.
do it every 2 years, and I have to do it all over again.
Yeah. What was your your toughest fight that you fought, and what did it teach you?
Competition wise,
Yeah.
that's a good question. I had a lot of tough fights. I would say that probably the fight that I actually just got completely had my ass handed to me was fighting a guy in Japan, Hirodoki Suzuki, who was a Japanese fighter. I had won the world full contact karate championships, which was unique for a non-Japanese guy to win it. And back in the 90s, this is back in 92, something like that. It was kind of unique that I won it, and I won it pretty handedly, to be honest. I mean, I basically stone cold smoked everybody, and so this Japanese fighter kind of came out of retirement to kind of fight me, and it's a real Japanese thing, for them. They're into drama and all this kind of stuff. They had this whole thing of him contemplating coming. Of course, it's in Japanese, but it was translated for me. This whole deal about him contemplating coming out of retirement. But to be honest, he was so much better than me at that time that he's the only guy that beat me where I really got beat from start to finish. And any of my other fights, I never really. I was usually generally winning the fight. Most of my losses came near the end of my career when I just couldn't take the punches as the same, and I was winning the fights, but I got caught with a shot and got, but I've never been in a fight except for that fight where there was like that there was no way I was going to win it.
Yeah, you just felt completely outclassed from hearing you correctly.
Yeah, but it was interesting because when I started going back to Japan 3 years later, I challenged him all the time. I said, I will fight you in any rules whatsoever. You just tell me what you want me to do. Because by then I really was a much better athlete and much more skilled. I would have crushed him back then. I think he knew that too. I was also about 15 pounds heavier, so that probably was also a part of it. But he never fought me again, which was smart.
So what did being having the feeling of completely outclassed, what did that teach you? I mean, most people maybe would have taken it like, I'm not good enough, I'm out, I can't handle this. So you took a different path. So what did that challenge teach you?
It told me, what it really did is I realized I had to up my, I had to get better training. That's really what happened. Okay. I was stale. I was winning so much in karate and stuff that, I didn't really grow for probably about 3 or 4 years. I went 4 years without losing a single match.
Yeah, crazy.
And I lost to Doc Parker. Then I went another 2 years without losing a single match. And then I lost to Doc Parker again.
Nice. So when you started when you started training more, is that when you started, really focusing more on not just, your karate and your kickboxing, but more being more of a well-rounded martial artist?
Well, not really. Not.
Okay.
I was always I always was a fairly well-rounded martial artist because I was a high school All-American and state champion. I wrestled in college, and I was a karate fighter, and I was a good amateur boxer. Then when I turned pro, I was pro kickboxing, and so this was just before I started kickboxing. Okay, cool. And I was professional. It was considered it's kind of like a pro-am. You got paid, but it wasn't under it wasn't like the WBA or something like that, right? So it was a world karate federation, and you got like I said, you asked why I turned pro. Well, to be honest, when they started doing these tournaments in America, and they were paying you $500 to show up, and then $500 a win, right? So, there were 16-man tournaments. So, you got $2,500 if you won the damn tournament. Well, hell, that was like saying 25, might have been saying like $250,000 to me back then,
Sure.
This is back in 1988. I think it was 88. Yeah, something like that. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'll do that. And, I didn't even know the rules. But for real, I didn't. And But I went out there. In fact, it was funny because my first couple of matches, I wore, colored gis, and you were supposed to wear all white gis, but nobody told me that.
Sure.
So I show up with what I used to fight in the karate circuit with, which was, a black top and blue bottoms, and I had wild hair, and I was I was kind of an anomaly there, and it was a good time. It was a nice it was introduction, and it really is what sparked me to
Cool.
continue with what I was doing. I realized I had talent.
Awesome.
And and so even though that karate circuit wasn't, you couldn't make enough money,
Sure.
to really sustain yourself. But it launched it into the fact that I started kickboxing and stuff like that. I caught the eye of Billy Jackson, who's probably one of the greatest martial artists in the world, one of the greatest coaches. He started to train me, and to be honest, he trained me all the way to the end of my career. And he was an amazing martial artist. And, in fact, he was there for just about, all the world championships except for when I won the King of Pancrase, which was in Japan. But he'd been there at all. Well, he wasn't there when I won the world when I won the world championships in Japan, but for karate. But he was there for just about all of them.
Cool, man.
And good man. He's more like my daddy than my real dad. So
yeah. Awesome. Dude, one of the things that I really respect about you is, dude, you're totally, for me, a model of what it means to be a guy who is completely there for his wife and for his children. And so, like, you have this life after fighting, which I feel like many other people who, achieve your level of success, somehow they don't seem to make it out into the next life. They definitely don't have an amazing wife like you have, an amazing family life that you have. You're very plugged into the community. You're always giving back. I mean, you're honestly an amazing human being. So when it seems you are, dude, you are. Take the compliment.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So when it seems like so many other people, they achieve it, they get addicted to that identity. How were you able to overcome and shift and create a whole new identity for yourself? And you've done it time and time again, but how have you just constantly reinvented yourself? Rather than being attached to the champ, the UFC light heavyweight championship of the world. I mean, dude, that's what some would consider almost the baddest man on the planet, seriously.
Well, I'll tell you, it ain't easy, brother. And I wish I could tell that I had some kind of sage old wisdom to give people, but sure. I don't. I'll tell you what it came down to is, my entire life was attached to being the champ. When I started getting older and realized, holy crap, I'm not gonna be able to do this forever, I was going through a quandary. I mean, I was like, I went through a lot of personal development programs and human potential programs, because I was like, what the hell am I going to do? Yep. See, people thought I graduated college because I had a fairly decent college wrestling career, but I didn't. And I'm like, all I knew was fighting. I turned pro at 20. I was earning my entire, 90% of my income from fighting by the time I was 24. And 24 years old. And so, here I am, turning, 34. And I'm like, I realized that I'm done. My body couldn't take it anymore. And I was done with it myself. I didn't, one thing that always made me a good contractor when I was doing security contracting, what made me a good fighter was my ability to compartmentalize things. I could, I knew I had to take care of business, and I had to be dispassionate about it. Now, I wasn't brutal to my opponents. In fact, just the opposite. I let guys off, but I took care of business, and it didn't keep me up at night. But that started to go away, and I'm not sure why. But I sat there in the middle of things, and I wouldn't do things that were against my own personal moral code, even if they were like the original format when I first started in UFC and all that kind of stuff. There were no rules. I literally had 17 fights, I think, with no rules. No rules.
Right.
All right. And so, but I wouldn't do things that were against my own personal code. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm in the middle of a fight near the end of my career, and this guy has my leg, and he's on the ground. And I reach up, I'm going to stomp him in the face, which was legal in Japan. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing?
Mm.
I mean, what am I doing? I would never do that to somebody.
Yeah.
I like the guy. You know what I mean? I like the guy. Let alone, in fact, if I didn't like him, I still wouldn't do it.
Sure.
This ain't life or death. This is for money.
Mm.
And I was like, man, I gotta get out of this shit. And because I said, I can't. I'm having problems, you know, departmentalizing where I'm at. And then so, you know, I kind of had a quiet time with myself, and I said, I got to figure this out. And then my wife, who she was my friend for about 4 years before we even started dating, and I always had a crush on her. My wife, and this is not even being charming, my wife is the nicest human being you'll ever meet. I always tell people, if you don't like my wife, there's something wrong with you, because she's generally the nicest person I know, and she is beautiful. And when I say beautiful, I mean she's like beautiful. And she, you know, so I always had a crush on her, you know. I mean, I always had this thing in the back of my heart for, you know, in the back of my head for her, you know. I remember when I first met her, I was like, who is this woman, right? And in fact, I remember when I first met her, I go, man, nobody this good looking is this nice. She's got to be working it. and so we were always friends. Like, she had a boyfriend, but nobody liked her boyfriend. But we liked her so much, we put up with him. And so she walked in my gym. She disappeared. You know, her and her boyfriend. You know, I don't even know what happened, but you know, we didn't see her for about a year. And then she showed up at my gym one day, and we just started talking. And like I said, I always kind of had a crush on her. So I was like, hey, you like Jimmy Buffett? And she's like, yeah. Because if she didn't like Jimmy Buffett, there's no way we could get along. So we went to the Jimmy Buffett concert together. And it was an interesting time with her, because, you know, I was like, you know, this is where I started making a lot of my changes and stuff. You know, I mean, I was already making certain changes and things in my life, because I realized, you know, my days were done or getting done as an athlete. But with her, you know, I was like, the motivation comes from, you know, to change and do like I said, reinvent yourself and do these other things, was because I reinvented myself a ton within my own career. I was this, you know, very confident karate fighter. Then I became, you know, world champion kickboxer, and I was like the man in Dallas for that, and, you know, and the schools. And then MMA came along, and it was a whole no holds barred before MMA, and I was the most successful guy from Texas, you know, at the time, and you know, at this thing, especially because there was no rules, it was crazy, right? So I had this little like, you know, in reinventing myself within this spectrum of athletics. But this time was time for me to say goodbye to that. And my wife was probably the motivation for it. You know, I think back on it, you know, there was a certain amount of desperation too, because like, what the hell am I going to do? And you sit around, and one thing is like, you know, the UFC, they I don't know, they still have them, but they have these fan appreciation conventions, and they used to fly me out there, you know, and it was good, you know, a little ego boost, you know, because I could go sign some autographs. But really, what it was a nice time to go see some of my old buddies from the deal. But the problem is that I would go see these guys, most of them, and all they would do is go, hey, you remember the time that we were in Japan and we did this? And it was the exact same conversation I had with them the year before.
Yep.
Nothing new.
Yep. And
I was like, man, I can't do this. I can't. I stopped going, because I was like, it broke my heart to see it. Like, they had nothing going on, right? Yeah. And so I worked for, you know, so Michelle was my motivation. You know, she's an amazing woman, but she also, you know, I have a stepson. She had a son, and so I can't screw around like I normally do. You know, I mean, normally they say you can't make people fall in love with you, but that's bullshit. It's easy. Mm-hmm. It's easy, you know. But I wasn't gonna do my normal selfish, self-centered stuff, because one, she's obviously this amazing woman, but two, you know, I was like, man, I can't do this, man. She's got to get on with her life if I'm gonna do it. And literally, I'm not kidding. I did not kiss my wife romantically for 2 months of dating her. And I would go over her house almost every night, and I would leave around 9 or 10 o'clock, and I'd kiss her on the cheek or give her a hug for 2 months. And you don't understand the amount of self-control that is, because my wife is smoking hot. But I knew I just couldn't screw it up. And I had to make sure that I was gonna I was going to do the right thing. And then she told me that she was going to go back to Atlanta because that's where she was from. She got a job offer and she goes, yeah, I'm going to go back to Atlanta. And I was sitting there and I was like, I broke my heart. And she's like, yeah, well, we'll still see each other, you know? And at this point we'd gotten more romantic, you know?
Sure.
And it broke my heart because I was like, nah, it's not going to work. She goes, what do you mean? We could, you know, I'll come see, I'm like, no, babe, it doesn't work. Because I said, she knew my old girlfriend before her who had her own airplane. She lived in New York. She had business and life in New York, and she had her own airplane. I go, Jennifer had her own airplane, and we couldn't make it work. We're not going to make this work, okay? Sure. I said, we'll just have the time, and you just go back. And then, so I didn't literally sleep that whole night. And the next day, you know, we went to this book signing deal, and I'm sitting in line and I just couldn't take it anymore. I looked over at her. I said, no, this is not the appropriate time or place, but I don't want you to go back to Atlanta. I said to her, I said, I love you. I probably always have, but I love you. And if you go, then we're not going to find out if this is going to work or not. And I can't, I got to fight for you. You got to stay. And so she stayed, and we got married 6 months later.
Awesome.
And that was years ago.
So it sounds like she played a crucial role.
Yeah.
But how hard was it for you to like let the old identity go? Like you talked about it being pretty tough. You talked about having to go to personal development training to help you make that transition. I know when I did it being a professional musician, like when that fell apart for me, 2009, I was left like, who the fuck am I? Like I'm supposed to be this professional rock star guy. I remember going to Disney with my parents like in October. That was like the month after we quit doing our last radio show. And I remember standing in line and I was like, what the fuck? I haven't stood in line in 5 years. What is this standing in line nonsense? It was like a huge reality like shock for me. So what helped you make the transition to like let go of the old identity? Because dude, it's tough.
Well, okay. So here's also one of the things that I'm addicted to winning. Okay. Listen, I don't do anything to take second place. All right. Now, I probably should be on the couch talking to a therapist about it, you know, more so than laminating about the positive side of that. But it's not, you know, that's just not who I am.
Sure.
And so I had this opportunity, you know, so Mark Cuban, I was doing a consulting deal for this one company, and Mark Cuban's company, television company, was filming it. And these guys completely dropped the ball. And so me and the producers from it's Access TV now, but it used to be called HDNet. HDNet literally burned the oil until about 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, the night before the deal. And we literally were like done at 3 o'clock in the morning. The show starts at 6 o'clock the evening, that evening, right? And we got it done, and they were impressed with my ability to do stuff. So they had me come out and start, you know, discussing the idea of putting together, you know, combat athletics on their show. And so, on their station. And so I did, you know, and everything. And I didn't hear anything back from about 2 months. And then Mark Cuban calls me up, like we're long lost buddies. And he goes, hey guy, this is Mark. I'm like, going, Mark who, right? You know? So he goes, yeah, hey man, I want you to fly out to Vegas because I got to do some meeting here with the Mavericks. And I wanted to, I'm like, you know, because at my gym, we do a lot of practical jokes. And I thought, man, somebody's got to be putting a practical joke on me.
Sure.
No, it turned out. So really what I did, I flew out there. It was supposed to be an hour meeting, and turned into like a 6-hour meeting. And I ended up spending the night out there. And he's like, by the way, being a billionaire in Vegas is a lot more fun than being a normal human. You know? And I got to play billionaire and had a great time. And then I started my new career as a television executive. Mm-hmm. And I was president of HDNet. Of HDNet Fights, which was the combat sports division of it. And it was the #1 programming for their deal, like all the way up till they changed the programming. So
awesome. So it sounds like Michelle gave you a reason why that anchored in, like, I got to change because I want this. So that gave you a deep reason why. And then you had a vision to run towards with Mark and all the stuff he was creating. So that helped you kind of feed that ability to win. And that just kind of set you off on this trajectory to kind of make that shift. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, you know, like I said, I like inventing stuff. I like that. That's what I'm good. My skill set is not like, I'm not ever the smartest guy there. I'm never the talented guy there, but I'm the guy who can put together a team to make the success. And that's really my success as an athlete. I put together my own training team that made me the best athlete at what I was doing, even though I wasn't the best athlete, right? They made me best prepared. And the same thing with HCNet. I put together a team that was a rock star team, and we kicked some ass. And it's the same reason why the gym works so well. The gym has got a bunch of rock star athletes, rock star instructors, and we do well in it. And so that's kind of my set. But yeah, you're right. You know, you got to be motivated. You got to have a reason to do stuff. Well, my reason to do stuff is that, well, one, I got this new woman that I'm in love with. I'm going to marry, and I've got to start this new life and this new career and all this other stuff. And I'm like, holy crap, where's that going to go? How's that going to happen? And and so you got a choice. You can feel sorry for yourself, and you can do this. And you can sit around, and I can sit around and tell everybody a bunch of bullshit about how good I was and all that. We can sit around and talk about that, have a cup of coffee, and you buy me dinner. But that's about the extent of it, right?
Sure.
And I don't want to be like that. I'm Guy Mezger. Guy Mezger does great things, just like everybody here. She'll do great things. Problem is, we talk ourselves out of it. Yeah. And so listen. I do it myself, but there comes a certain point where you get so freaking desperate. You get so you're so either sick and tired of where you were at, or you're so desperate the fact that you got to feed your family or whatever, right? That you just go, screw it. I'm going for it. Yeah, and we're capable, we are capable of doing stuff. We talk ourselves out of it. And again, the thing is, people see my successes. They don't see my failures. That's the problem, right? They don't see how many times I've dropped on my ass, you know what I mean? And had to reinvent myself or reinvent something, right? Like this, like I said, I'm known for my successes, which stand out. I've been successful athlete, television exec, we have one of the most successful gyms in Texas. And and now as a health professional, I've created a name for myself as a metabolic specialist, and so but these are things I want to do. I first of all, I don't want to be known as a guy who hurt people, right? Yep. I'm not ashamed of my career. I did stuff. I had two very violent careers. I was a security contractor that contracted over in Africa and places like that in the 90s, and late 80s and 90s, and then. And then I was a professional fighter, but I don't want to be known as that. I want to be known as a guy who helped people. I want to be known as a guy who was a healer, not a hurter. And so, if you're going to do that, you got to do it, not just talk.
How did personal development or personal development training, how did that play into this whole journey?
Well, it basically woke me up on things, to be honest. I mean, it woke me up on the idea that I needed to make some changes, And a lot of the programs are good, but here's the problem with most of those programs. Most of those programs aren't they're not real life enough, you know what I mean? They're not a smack.
I totally know what you mean.
And the one thing I always tell people about stuff, I said, when you deal with me, it's about a smack in the face, either physically or metaphorically. Because I'm not doing you any service when people come to me and do stuff, especially their health issues and stuff like that. We dance around this whole thing. And listen, it is not okay. So like one of the things that bothers me right now, it's not politically correct, I get, is we have a weight issue in this country. Okay, we have people who are obese. In fact, 1/3 of American adults are obese. All right, but we're not talking about it. Instead, we're going, hey, being big is beautiful. No, you're beautiful inside. You're not beautiful on the outside, and you're not healthy. That's the problem, and it needs to be addressed. I mean, and so when you deal with me, I'm not going to sit there and go, yeah, it's you're healthy. No, you're not healthy. Your cholesterol's through the roof. You have 35% body fat. Your inflammation levels are through the roof. You get to die earlier in life in fairly miserable ways if you don't do something about it. Now, I understand my bedside manner probably needs a little bit of work. I get that, but I get results because I'm honest with people about stuff. And that's what's I feel it's missing in a lot of these personal development is that it's only partially honest. Yeah, it's only partially honest because they don't deal with the stuff that makes people really uncomfortable, right? And there's only I went to one program that did a really good job, and they're not around anymore. It's because they made people so uncomfortable that most people quit, but the people who went through it had life-changing experience, like me and my wife and other people. And so it's kind of like martial arts. Most people don't want to really do real martial arts because you get a black eye and you get a fat lip, and you're uncomfortable, right? In fact, you spend most of your time uncomfortable. Well, that doesn't make people like, well, I don't want to do that. Well, guess what? You won't be able to defend yourself. You won't be able to do the stuff that you think you want to do. You will not be there. So, life is about, I tell people, the greatest secret that I give anybody is learn to be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
So good.
The moment that you can accept that things are going to be uncomfortable, man, life is going to change for you.
Awesome, man.
Because
What mistakes do you see people making when they want to reinvent themselves?
That they don't really want to reinvent themselves. What they want is, so here, what they really want is, they pretend at it.
Yeah.
Okay, they pretend it. They don't get into it wholeheartedly. They don't do stuff. And listen, I'm not saying I'm great at it either, but and a lot of it was for it. Like, the reason I became a PhD, right, was because I was in the middle of, I was part of a study. I directed a study about carb loading. And there's no such thing as carb loading, right? Your body can only absorb X amount of carbohydrates and that's it, right? And the more muscle you have and the better shape you're in, the more your body can absorb that, but you can't like load up on it, right? So we did this whole study on it. And the doctor said, hey, we want you to present it because you're a good presenter. All right. Now, I'm not a doctor. In fact, I was working on my undergrad at the time. So I'm not even a college graduate at the point. And so right before me was a doctor who was talking about carb loading. And she was 100% absolutely factually wrong, right? So I'm sitting there and I had this whole presentation where I was going to be kind of snarky about stuff. And then I'm like, holy crap, there's this woman. I don't want to make her, like, how am I going to do that? And so I did my best to be polite about it and everything like this. But, and then so she started asking questions and she's like, so Dr. Mezger. I said, oh, I'm sorry if you got the impression I was a doctor. I'm actually not a doctor. Oh, so what are your credentials? So I literally had to go, well, I'm actually working on my undergrad in natural health and all this. And so anyway, so what ended up happening, I got so pissed off. I was walking around and talking to my wife at the time on the phone. I'm in California in San Diego and walking around. I'm probably scaring the shit out of everybody around the pool because I'm sitting there screaming in the phone. I'm so mad. The thing is that I'm sitting there going, and my wife's going, what is it that you need to do here? And I go, well, I got to get my PhD. And she goes, well, then go get your PhD. I was like, all right. That's when I applied for a PhD. I was finishing my undergrad, so I was done. And then I'd already been started on my master's. So that was my decision to do it. So
awesome, man. What advice do you have for somebody who's at a place where they kind of need to reinvent their life?
My advice? Yeah. Be honest with yourself.
So good.
Seriously, write down why you want to do it and be honest with yourself. What I mean? People like, I want to make more money. I made so much money as a fighter. Where I was going to make that money? Why am I make that money in my gym? Mm-hmm. I have a great gym, but it's not going to be that money. So I've got to do other things. And so I had to look at what I was going to do. And I was honest about myself. I want to make more money. I also didn't want to be known as the guy who beat people up for a living.
Right.
No, I don't want to be known as a knuckle dragger.
Yeah.
So I want to do that. And I want to help people. And I'm good at this. I'm actually a really good health professional. I'm good at being a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm good at it. And my methods are not traditional methods. We're not interventionalists. We are proactive healthcare guys. You come to us while you're relatively healthy, and I will make you Superman.
Awesome, man.
We're close to it.
I remember you telling me once when you decided to become a doctor, it was like a whole new level of uncomfortable for you. Like, if I remember correctly, you told me like, dude, fighting in a cage, easy peasy, cakewalk, no problem. But then getting up in front of a room and then delivering a speech about the research that you had done, that was like a whole nother level of, I think as you said, like walking on skinny branches, like fear. So like what advice do you have for those who are like totally afraid to go all in on themselves to create that next level?
Yeah. Well, you got to have some balls. There ain't no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I don't fear any man. I'm 51 years old. I still don't fear anybody. Right. Bring them. Right. But that's where I'm easy at. That's easy for me.
Yeah.
I know for everybody else. And it seems remarkable. It seems, oh man, he's so brave because he'll fight, he'll stand. But that's what I do. It's like rewarding a dog for barking. It's what a dog does, right? What is not easy for me is, handling certain criticisms from things, handling the fact that I, listen, when you do what I do for a living, people think you're an idiot, and they do. And so I have always had to fight down this thing and fight down this image of like, I'm a knucklehead.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you going to become a health professional and you used to beat people up for a living. Where's the contradiction there? Huh? And so it wasn't easy. It's still at times it's not. Believe me, there are times I'm ready to revert back and punch people in the face. You know what I mean? And like my wife says, she goes, "You're 51 years old. You got to figure it out." And I'm like going, "Yeah, I'll figure it out tomorrow." But yeah, it's not easy. Listen, none of this stuff is easy. I mean, if it was easy, we would be, the reinvention part. It's not really a reinvention. What it is just some kind of modification that appeases your ego, probably. That's really what that is. That's so you can tell people, hey, I reinvented myself.
Sure.
And we love to do that one. We love to have that kind of bullshit. But listen, let's face it, man. We gotta get real with you. First of all, you want to make some changes, get real with yourself. That's the number one thing you got to do. It's like, why do you want to make these changes? What is it? What is it in for you? What's in for you? Because most people go, well, that's awful self-centered. No. Just so you understand, everything's about being self-centered. All right. And whether you're self-centered is a selfish kind of self-centered, or if you're self-centered is like, hey, I'm going to get my shit together so I can be a better father.
Exactly.
That's really what it's down to. I mean, I have to be somewhat self-centered because my upbringing, like, people always go, man, you're a good dad. No, I'm really not a good dad. I'm not a bad dad. I do the best I can. I'm probably a good dad, but not a great dad, right? Because my lessons in life were not on how to be a good father. It was great examples on how not to. Anything my father would do, I'd do the opposite. Well, you cannot live your life. You cannot raise your children, on what not to do. You got to know what to do, right? And so, I had to get real with myself on stuff. I had to do stuff, that was different, and a lot, my wife, again, I go to my wife. I have such a great partner. She's such an amazing mom that I actually look like a great dad because of that, but she makes it easy for me because she does, and we have a great partnership and how to raise our kids. And I think a lot of times too, it's like, if you're going to reinvent yourself, you need a partner in there somewhere. You need a coach, you need a coach. I've had a lot of business mentors come up to me. I've had so many great doctors, some of the leading specialists in the world, things like one, I'm going next week to meet with a guy named Dr. Seeds because I've been contracted to work with these new peptides, which are amino acid chains, right? It's where medicine's going, by the way, guys. Anybody listen to this, check out peptides, amino acid chains. It's really where life is going to go. This is where medicine's at. And anyway, so I get a chance to, I'm going to meet with him, because of this. So I've had these, and he's assuming somewhat of a mentor role for me. So yeah, so you need to find a mentor. You need to find these things like this. You need to find people that can do stuff, and people that'll be honest with you too. That's the problem. Most people aren't honest with you, one, because they either don't care or they don't want to hurt your feelings, right? And sure. So, and believe me, I come off as a tough guy, but I'm a little soft in the middle. So yeah, I get my feelings hurt a lot about stuff. And but you got to toughen up and take it. It's like, all right, Buttercup, let's get going with stuff.
For sure, man. So dude, now that you're a doctor, you're a managing partner of OHS, the Optimal Health Specialist. Like, what cool things are you guys up to do today? Like, what are you guys doing with the company?
Well, like I said, mostly the peptide
amino acid stuff, right? The building blocks of humans.
Building blocks of life. Yeah.
That's right.
Basically, in medicine, right? The allopathic medicine, which is your modern medicine, right? The problem is that the medicines don't really fix anything. They fix symptoms. Right. They don't really fix the things. And so the only way that your body will fix it is the body fixes itself, right? You have to facilitate an environment so the body can fix itself. Like, like aspirin, right? You take aspirin. Aspirin's not curing the headache; it's curing the pain. Okay, but if you take antibiotics, right? Now that's one of the very few medicines that actually does fix something. It kills the bacteria and the fungus, all that kind of stuff. So you get back, but your body produces those on their own, right? Just generally not as well as we used to, right? So what happens with with peptides is peptides facilitate a action in your body, right? It facilitates, and we can, and they're so good at this now. They can actually like they have growth hormone secretagogues, which is an amino acid change that causes your body to produce its own growth hormone. More of your own growth hormone. But they have ones that like the one that I take now is called the Hexa, which is because I've had believe it or not, I've had brain injury. Imagine that, from fighting professionally. But really, most of my brain injury doesn't come from that. I've actually had brain tumor, which caused most of the damage in my brain. And so, one of the issues that this Hexa does is it migrate of things. But one of the big things is that it has your body produce more, like 70% more brain-derived nerve growth factor, which is a fancy thing for basically miracle grow on your brain. And it's what you need to reestablish neurons and all these other stuff. So we literally have an amino acid chain that can start fixing issues like my issues that I have from this brain tumor. But that's just some of them. I mean, they have ones that work on the kidneys, and it's amazing science. I mean, it's an amazing science, and it's and people are getting to know it now. It's exciting. Problem is, it's also kind of getting a little bit of there's a lot of cowboys out there, which is a shame, because that's when the FDA will step in and give us problems. But I'm most excited about learning that stuff, and because, like I said, I've changed people's. I got people type 2 diabetes off their stuff, off their insulin within 3 weeks.
So good.
Yeah.
Are you taking new clients? Are you taking new clients?
Yeah. I'm in a little more of a study mode right now, because I'm also working on another project about we're putting proactive health clinics inside a big box health center. So I'm not really taking too many, but yeah, I mean, what I do is I take on projects. If you come to me just because you not feeling, I'm all right, but I want to take on something like come to me and give me why you want me to work with you. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I do now, because it's like I take on projects. I want to work on things that are going to make a difference, right? I'm not worried about vanity shit. You're worried about being fat too much? Yeah, eat less. Work out. I'm not interested in that. But if you got something serious, like, hey, I'm concerned because I've got diabetes in my family, and like what my newest client, basically came to me, and he's out of shape, really out of shape, and he's like, man, I'm going to be 50 next year. I'm in horrible shape. I got a 7-year-old daughter. I want to be around for her to see her get married. Well, I'm with you, brother. I get that. I got a daughter myself. Let's get to work. And as long as he's willing to work, I'll work with him.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
that's kind of
awesome. And for people that want to go check that out, it's OHS, right? OHS medical.
Yeah, my email is the easiest, is g.mezger@ohsmedical.com. That's the easiest one.
Awesome. And dude, when it comes to starting like a new career, I'm curious personally, how did you balance? I said, when it comes to having to start a new career, so like you went from fighting into, the Mark Cuban stuff, the doctor stuff, but how did you balance being a husband and being a father while putting in the work to create that whole new next version of yourself?
I'll be honest, I'm not even sure how to answer that. I'll tell you what it is that my family is the greatest joy that I have. My wife is the greatest joy that I have. And believe me, it's not because I don't have an incredible life, right? I tell people all the time, the first 5 years of my life was like, I had some challenges, but I had a freaking awesome, exciting life. I mean, I've done more crazy stuff and been across this world than most people will ever even dream of doing, right? But the last 15 years of my life with my family, where I've been at home most of the time, stuff like that, it's actually been some of the best times of my life, if not the time of my life. And so when you set your priorities, right, and my priorities are my family, everything that takes care, everything I need to do for my family. I need to show my family love. I need to show my family, my I have to be a parent, I have to be a husband. I got to be a provider. These are all these things that I have to do. And so, yeah, there are nights I don't sleep very much. There's times when I don't do very much, like this and things. And I don't mind doing that. For me, it's like I drive a truck. Okay.
Awesome.
Now I'm kind of a cowboy anyways, but I drive a truck. And my wife actually got tired of my dirty old truck. So she went and bought me this really nice truck, which is way too nice for me. Like, hey, you wasted it because I'll probably wreck this thing 5 times by the time we're doing this thing. But, but for her, it's like, I want her to have nice cars, right? You know what I mean? Because she, well, first of all, deserves them, but she'll take good care of them and stuff like that. That's not something I want. I want my wife to have that. I want my kids, listen, we bust our ass so our kids get to go to private school. They get to have an advantage that I didn't have. Yeah. Not there's no public school because I was a public school kid. Most people are public school kids. But, I live in Dallas, right? So yeah. Dallas is not the best public school. So, I bust my ass. My wife busts her ass. So we get to send our kids to Jesuit and to St. Monica's and places like that, because I want to give my kids the best. So when you have something you care about more than yourself, you will be amazed at what you can do. When you're not thinking about yourself, I tell people like this all the time. I said, when you're not thinking about yourself, when you're thinking about other things and how you can be part of that part, you will find a way to do it. You will. You always do. You always do. Awesome. And it's either I don't know where people are on their spiritual journey or anything, but it's a spiritual thing. It just does. It just works that way. And yeah, does it work? Is it going to be like magic? Like I'm gonna wake up and everything's gonna be all ice cream and chocolate syrup? No, it's not. But it's also going to be there. Okay, and it's like that old saying, don't get confused that opportunity looks like hard work, right? You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean.
Yeah, and so it's not like things are generally going to be given to you, but they're going to get these opportunities, and you better kick ass in them. Awesome. I tell people all the time. Please tell me all the time. You're so lucky. When I got the chance to fight in the UFC, I'm like, really? I got lucky. Really? I got lucky. Okay, I've been combat athlete since I was 8 years old. Okay, I've won world championships and all this stuff. I've put hundreds of fights for like next to nothing, right? Yeah. And then I get in there and I get this opportunity to fight. And I said, yeah, I got this opportunity to fight, but guess what? I kicked ass. So I got an opportunity and I won. Yeah. Okay. That's not luck, right? Yeah. And so that's, what I tell people all the time. It's like, people want to have other reasons for not being successful, right? And most of the reasons that people aren't successful is that they want to blame other people for what's going on. And then there may be a good reason for people. Sorry. There may be a good reason. There may be a reason why. There may be a legitimate reason why somebody took advantage of you. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Get over it and then get on with it anyways. I've had a lot of people take advantage of me. I was just complaining to you earlier about one of the business deal. The guy got south on me, and I'm like having to calm myself down so I don't go to the old guy Mezger and go visit him at his house and go, hey, let's have a talk with your face on the concrete. So I'm not saying there aren't challenges. I'm not saying people won't do this, but what I'm also saying is that you're responsible for yourself in this, and that you are capable. Everybody's capable. I mean, hell, I was reading a story about a young man with autism who started his own coffee shop, and now he has severe autism. I mean, we're not even talking like, things. And here's a guy who and he runs it himself with help with other things like this. So here's somebody who's got way behind the 8 ball, right? I always look at Anthony Robles too. You got to look this guy up. You want to talk about a badass? Anthony Robles was a 2-time NCAA national wrestling champion, Division I, which means he's one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. Anthony Robles has 1 leg.
It's amazing.
Yeah, you think?
Amazing.
You think? Okay, yeah. Anthony Robles can kick my ass in wrestling, and I'm got 2 freaking amazing legs.
Exactly. It's crazy.
And so yeah. Do you think he sat there and you think he sat there and went, oh shit, life sucks because I got 1 leg? Yeah, he probably did for a while. Yeah. But he also probably sat there and goes, it's not going to stop me. So yeah, I grew up I grew up behind the 8 ball. We all grew up behind some kind of 8 ball.
Absolutely.
Even
so
silver
dude,
spoon.
to wrap this up, man, what parting advice do you feel inspired to share with anybody listening to this podcast?
Man, I don't know. I feel somewhat unqualified to give too much advice, but I would tell you that find some passion in what you do, and find passion in everything. You know what I mean? If you're doing it, find passion in it. Even if it's like you got a shitty job, find passion in doing just that. Just take passion and doing the very best that you can until you get a better job, right? Find passion in your family, find passion in your in your everyday talking with people, and I think things work out for you. If anything, I'm passionate. I mean, I sit there, I go, I understand how good I got it. I'm a lucky man. I've got an amazing wife, amazing children, amazing life. But I also worked pretty hard to get there. Yeah, it wasn't really given to me. And so the fact is that we are given opportunity. It's what we do with it. And if you find enough passion, when the opportunity comes, you will kick ass in it. And that's what you need to do. And, and you can't be afraid to fail.
Awesome. Cool, brother. Well, thank you so much, dude, for being here, sharing your life with us, and just sharing your wisdom, man. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, man.
Well, there you have it, my friend, Guy Mezger in the house. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I know for me personally, I've always really enjoyed being around him. I know it may sound crazy, but for me, it's actually been very healing. Like walking into his gym and training, being surrounded by all of the certainty, it just like does something to you internally. Like it starts shifting who you are internally. It starts like increasing your levels of confidence and certainty, like at the cellular level. So if you're at a place where you want to turn your health around, or you want to reinvent who you're being, right? Who you're being in your body, make sure you go check out what Guy's doing in his medical company at ohsmedical.com. Or if you're in Dallas, or maybe you're traveling to Dallas or something, and you want to go train at his gym, go grab a class or something about that, you can learn more about his gym at guymezger.com. Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for listening. It's really awesome of you. Really appreciate you. If you're a big fan of what we talked about today, then I'm here to tell you that you cannot miss out on reading my book called Mindset is Not Enough. In that book, I talk about why most entrepreneurs struggle to scale their business, lead their teams, and find fulfillment. And I found it comes down to 4 things. And once someone becomes aware of what these 4 things are, and they learn how to shift their identity, I'm here to tell you, like, there's an entire new level of freedom, purpose, and success that can be created with pretty much relative ease. So you can grab that book for free at ajamex.com/book. So head on over to ajamex.com/book to download that book right now. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you're having an incredible day doing whatever it is that you're doing. Lots of love to you, man. And I'm out. Peace.
Well, that's all I've got for this episode of the Anthony John Amix podcast, but we have plenty more to help you become unstoppable in life and business. So head on over to ajamex.com for exclusive resources, information, and tools to help you break through to a new level of freedom, purpose, and success. I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Bye for now.